what are the most important numbers for a retiree to track throughout their retirement? And I think there's different numbers to track early in retirement versus different numbers to track later in retirement. So I'm a big advocate of you have three different phases when it comes to retiring. You have the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go phase. And the go-go phase, you're going to end up spending more money maybe in the 10, 15 years early in retirement. But then you get to a certain age, and maybe you've seen it with your parents or grandparents, and you don't spend as much. You're not traveling the world anymore in your 80s. And that's a time in your life where the accounts start to grow a little bit again, depending on how aggressive and conservative you have it. So I really focus a lot with the folks that come into the office on those go-go years. A lot of the folks I meet, they've been great savers their whole life. They have enough saved today that they're going to be fine for the rest of their life. They make it to 100 years old, and usually there's money left over at that point. So some of the numbers to focus on at that point are budget. A lot of times they might need to spend a little bit more money if they want to run out of money at some point down the road. But if their goal is to leave a boatload of money for their kids, they might really want to focus on what their budget is. And a lot of my families are like that. They don't spend a lot of money, and that's why they have a lot of money, right? They didn't spend it along the way. They didn't spend frivolously, if I can say that word twice. But when they're spending, they really are detailed with the budget that they have. They itemize it. They look at, if they have a mortgage, how much is the mortgage? How much could I throw at the mortgage? And how much is left on the mortgage? When is that going to drop off? What's my goal there? They're looking at different things like property taxes. They're looking at, what is my spending? How much do I want to spend on this trip every year? Maybe they take one big trip a year. They go to Italy or Europe or whatever it might be. They want to put that in their budget. So I have a lot of folks that come in that are very detailed with an itemized budget. And I think that's great. I think that's important. No matter what your goals are, if your goals are to spend every last dollar you have, well, you don't want to just spend $20,000 a year or a month, right? You want to figure out what that itemized budget is going to look like and maybe be a little bit higher on the scale, but be detailed with it. A lot of the numbers people focus on that, I think they should, but maybe isn't the most important thing in retirement are rates of returns. Rates of returns are really important for your 401k and those kind of things. But once you get to retirement, it's important to grow your money. Don't get me wrong. You have to make back, whatever you're needing to take out throughout the year, most years. But there's a difference between a rate of return of 6% and two different families. Like I always give this example in a class that I teach, right? We have the two different families. They both have the exact same amount of money. They both spend the exact same amount, and they have the same inflation rate. The only difference is how much does one family lose early in retirement versus the other family who loses money later in retirement. Now, they both have the exact same rate of return on paper for the same time period, but one family loses money early in retirement and they run out of money in about 20 years. The other family, same rate of return, same investment, same withdrawal rate, but they make a lot of money early in retirement, but then lose money later in retirement, and they never run out of money. So to me, it's not so much the average rate of return. You should know what that number is and what you're striving for. But it's how much do you lose at different stages of retirement that could have the biggest impact on your portfolio as a whole. And I've just seen it too much, and 2008 was a big year where a lot of people lost money and a lot of people had to go back to work after that because they didn't have the time to make it back. 2020 recently was a year where the market went down, but luckily for us, the market came right back up by the end of the year. So not as many people got hurt by that one. But what is that next downturn? And what does your portfolio look like if that downturn hits this year, next year, 10 years from now? What would that do to your portfolio? So there's a lot of numbers that people focus on that maybe is an important number to focus on, but not the most important number in the long run. Another number people focus on is what tax bracket they're in early in retirement. Most people I meet, they want to stay in the lowest tax bracket that they can from the time they retire for as long as possible. And that's great, right? You might be 62 retiring today and you're going to hold off on taking Social Security and you have a bunch of money in your savings account that you're going to draw from. So really, you're not paying any taxes whatsoever. But a lot of people I meet have most of their money saved in IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, 457s, all those plans that are tax deferred. And one of the problems with not touching those plans early in retirement is that now all of a sudden you get into your 70s, and at 73, the government starts making you take out those required minimum distributions. And the problem with those RMDs at 73 is they count as income for the year, right? You're taking it out of an IRA, and that's boosting up your income. And the problem with income is when your other income goes up, they tax more of your Social Security based on your other income. And then your healthcare premiums could be more expensive as well because healthcare premiums are based on income. I have a lot of people that still have pensions, or maybe they have rental income. So a lot of people have a lot of income in their 70s. And most people I meet are at least heading in the direction of being in the highest tax bracket of their life in their 70s. So that goes back to a lot of people early in retirement are trying to stay in the lowest tax bracket that they can. Well, I'd argue that that might not be the best play for everybody. It might be a much better play for that person who's early in retirement to start drawing money out of the IRAs first, because every dollar they take out, they're going to pay taxes on it, but they're in the lowest tax bracket of their life at that point. And every dollar they take out now is a dollar they won't have to take out in the future, which is going to keep their future income down, which could keep their Social Security taxes down, which could keep their healthcare premiums down in their 70s. So, retirement is always about, forward thinking. It's not just about the here and now, this year, today. What am I doing? What tax? It's what can I do today that's going to have a big impact later on down the road. And if you can do that right from the beginning, I promise you, tax strategies, not losing a lot of money in retirement, that is what makes a successful retirement. But it starts early, and that's where the Retirement Ready Roadmap comes in, because we're not looking at just the investments. We're not looking at just creating the biggest rate of return that we can. We're looking at all of it. We're looking at what can we do today that's going to have a big impact later, whether that's from an investment standpoint, an income standpoint, a tax standpoint, healthcare, estate planning, whatever that might be for you. What you do in one of those areas is going to affect the other areas later on down the road. So it's important that you can see the full picture and put together that holistic retirement plan.